that, believe it or not, were less than 3 years old. So we're going to be launching the search for the best UK startups in 2023 and visiting 10 cities along the way next year to celebrate the best new businesses in every corner of the UK. We're working with a brilliant set of partners, including BT, who are helping out with this seminar today. And we're aiming to create a vibrant startup community in every nation and region. It's great to have you all here today. And I've just had we'll talk about our guests in a minute, but I've just had a really interesting conversation before we did this. And I think this is really important about creating this vibrant community. So for the third webinar in this series, I'm really delighted to welcome Hugh Chappell to join us this morning. Before we go on to Hugh, I just want to tell you, we could be here for an hour talking about his achievements today, so we'll try and keep that brief, Hugh. So he's worked in the technology and publishing industry since '76. He joined Apple Computer in the UK in '79. And hopefully we'll talk a lot about that, I think, in the beginning, when the personal computer industry was in its infancy. A few years later, he established Taxon Europe Limited as a wholly owned subsidiary of Carg Electronics. He was 18 years at the helm of that, sold more than 5 million computer displays and graphic adapters, and the turnover was exceeding 50 million per annum. He always wanted to start and own his own business. He achieved this in 2003 when he founded TrustedReviews.com. He then acquired BitTech.net, and both digital publications became market leaders in their respective sectors. He sold Trusted Reviews to Time Warner, IPC Media in 2007, and BitTech to Dennis Publishing in 2008. He's been involved in several startups as an advisor and angel investor. He's invested in LADbible Group, JustPark, Parco Media, CloudShift, Net Communities, and Lovestruck. And most of our conversation today hopefully will be around this whole idea of investing and how angels invest in businesses and what they're looking for. So you've got a range of other things, Hugh, but I'm really keen to get this conversation started. So welcome, and let's start with the early career. We were talking earlier that you were one of the first employees of Apple in the sales force, and the personal computer industry was really just starting. It started with obviously that group of people in California coming together and talking about setting up personal computers. So tell us about what was happening at that time and how that influenced you.
Yeah, let me start by just saying good morning. We're approaching midday actually, aren't we? But anyway, it is still morning. So good morning, everybody. And, thank you for inviting me to talk to you today. And thank you to everybody who's listening. I hope we're all busy, aren't we? So I hope the hour is worthwhile for you. I mean, Apple is a company that everyone knows. But, when I joined, which was 1979, there were about a dozen of us in Hemel Hempstead in Hertfordshire. And worldwide that year, Apple had 226 employees, and their turnover was less than 20 million, so dollars, which with the pound being a lot stronger, which is a bit of a subject today, isn't it? But in those days, you got well over 2.3 approximately. So can you imagine Apple less than 10 million a year of turnover? Do that now in minutes, or seconds maybe. But yeah, it's interesting because this is startup. Apple is startup and it's disruption. This is the personal computer industry. And at the time, people are using pen, paper, and calculators, or they're using typewriters. So, the disruption is word processing spreadsheets, things that we all know today and take for granted. But, everything has to start with a step. And Apple were one of the pioneers of those steps. And so it's great fun going out to people. And we do this in startup, don't we? We find a new way to do something. So here we are, showing people a new way to do, for example, their forecasting. I can't imagine today doing my budgets with a pen, paper, and calculator, but that's what people did in those days. And the same with word processing. If anyone's old enough to remember a typewriter, it's amazing what word processing can do. And even the word processing sounds a bit old-fashioned. But anyway, so yeah, it was great fun. There were 12 of us. We had to think about how we're going to sell this product, because the entry-level product was about £750, and that's basically a computer with a keyboard. So you have to plug it into a television, into a cassette recorder. Can you imagine a cassette recorder? And again, many people here are probably too young to even know what a cassette recorder is. But by the time you added some storage, which was floppy disks in those days, and a small printer and a bit of software, you're looking at £2,500. So £2,500 in 1979, in today's terms, probably more than 25,000. So there we are. We've got a computer system, which is amazing, but it's going to cost people in the UK £25,000. It's a long story, but what I want to say to you is, you know, what was it like? What was amazing was you've got this company in America, which everyone knows Steve Jobs. A lot of people, most people know Steve Wozniak, but you've got a great product, a great marketeer. The combination of the two is so powerful, and their product was amazing. They moved very rapidly, and it was a very interesting time. The bit I would finish with is that, you know, the first product, amazing. Apple grew very quickly, and it was just amazing. But the next product, Apple III, was a failure, as was the next one, Apple Lisa. By the time we got to 84, we're now looking at Apple Macintosh. We say Apple Mac today. And Apple went through this period of really, really struggling. And many people will know that, you know, in came John Scully from Pepsi Cola. And at the top of the company, there was a lot of controversy and difficulties. And eventually Steve Jobs left the company. So Apple was in trouble at that time. So I guess it's really interesting because you learn a lot working with amazing people, amazing products, a new industry. And for me, it's something that's, I can just say, is an honor to have played a small part of and to being around in that time. And it shaped me big time throughout the rest of my career.
And obviously that was, as you said, it wasn't only a turbulent time for Apple and everything that was happening, but it was also a turbulent time in, you know, in the development of the computer industry as they were vying for, you know, we talked about IBM coming in and sort of just dropping, you know, Big Blue in the middle of this this growing market and having a massive impact. So what did you learn, Hugh, about, you know, about business when you were within Apple? You've alluded to some of the issues there about getting the, you know, the technology and the market focus right and bringing them together. I mean, one of the other things obviously about Apple was this sort of juxtaposition between art and science, and Jonathan Ive came in and, you know, tried to build a beautiful machine. But of course, in those days, even those early Apple machines were very design orientated, weren't they?
They were. I mean, the original Apple II, you know, it was a very beautiful product. You know, the competitors like Commodore or Atari and so on, you know, they were not design led. You know, and the Apple II looked good. And as more products came, disk drives and screens and so on, and Apple III and Lisa and Apple at that time were very careful about their design, their look, and the user experience. You know, in those days we had old-fashioned manuals, but the manuals were beautiful. They were well written. They were beautifully bound. Everything about it, even the box, the packaging, you know, Apple thought about that deeply from day one. So I learned that if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. I think that's something that was in that Apple DNA, which is coming from Jobs and no doubt Wozniak as well. So I think the products we had were very good. I think coming back to the UK, this small team, there's a guy called Michael Brewer who headed up at Apple in the UK. And, you know, what I learned from him was he was a very hard worker. He was first in and last out. He lived and breathed the business, as did, obviously, we know Jobs. There's enough written about Steve Jobs on his work ethic, etc. But what I saw in the UK was I saw an individual who worked hard, led by example. I was very young. I was 21. I worked hard because I actually really loved my job. So I didn't really want to go home at night. And it's kind of weird. I said to you earlier, it was like, I'm being paid to do something. It's almost like a hobby. So it is that find a job you like and you'll never work a day in your life. So if you've got something, and I think for the entrepreneurs listening here, when you're really passionate about something, you will really commit to it. And I think we were a team of people that were so passionate about it. It wasn't this come in at 9, go at 5:30 type routine. And I know we're going back, and I know times are changing, etc. But I think we worked very hard, and I think we were very customer focused. So I also learned the discipline of running the company properly. Also from a, let's say from an accounting point of view, I'm a salesman by trade and a marketeer, but although I did mention to you earlier, I did do mainframe programming before Apple, but that's another story. But I did learn also about the discipline of running the business, from an accounting point of view. We're going back to 79, but our systems in-house were really good. We knew real time our sales position, our profit position, all of that we knew real time. And I still find businesses today, they get to the end of the month and they can't tell me how much profit they've made.
Yeah, exactly.
And to me, when I ran my business, I knew how much profit I'd made on the last day of the month. I did. Now, where's that come from? I suspect it comes from those early days of seeing an efficient machine running, and I'm talking about the UK business that I was involved with, watching that. So you learn a lot about some of the entry level, or some of the important, not entry level, they're important decisions of running a business. It's great having a great sales team. It's great having great marketeers, etc. But at the end of the day, you've got to have the discipline of finance. And we were very disciplined. And everything we did from our profit margin, because again, we're importing. Products are coming in US dollars. And for those of you that are international and you have to handle currencies, whether it's selling or buying or whatever, there's a real discipline that I learned from that. And also my next job, which was working with a Japanese company. And that's also good, working with Japanese, working with Americans. You learn a lot.
Good. So you could have stayed in Apple. It would have been an interesting journey with all the other new products, the iPhone, the iPad, etc., coming through. But you decided to branch out for yourselves. Tell us a bit about that thought process. You're working in a very successful company. Yes, there was a bit of, as you say, a bit of revolution going on in different ways, but you did decide to branch out on your own in 2003. So tell us about that journey, Hugh.
Yeah, look, I mean, I left Apple. I worked for a Japanese company, which is very interesting. I opened up their operations in Europe as an employee. They headhunted me, actually. And originally, this company used to supply Apple with screens, so that's how I knew them. And they approached me and said, it's one of those strange moments. We want you to work for us. It's I'm fine, thank you. And then it was, show us what you earn and we'll double it. Now, when someone says that and you're earning a lot of money, you kind of think about it, because money is a driver, but it's not the only driver in life, but it is a driver. So for me, I'd experienced the computer industry, fast growth, so many companies, so many individuals, some and then lots and lots of people you've never heard of who are just amazing entrepreneurs. So you witness all that. And then you have this, I described it as this kind of song inside you. I always say to people, I bet you've got a song inside you. Don't go to your grave leaving it inside, And I guess it's great to preach it, but you've got to practice it. So for me, my big moment was on a flight to Japan. It was Boxing Day. It was the turn of the millennium, and I'm flying to Japan. And in those days, no, we flew direct in those days. Sorry, so 12-hour flight on your own, Boxing Day, and you're thinking, because in Japan they don't celebrate Christmas, so they work. So it's a good time to go, because you can. In the UK, we slow down over Christmas. So go to Japan, you can work at full pace and do your budgets and all those things. But I'm kind of on the plane thinking, I want to do my own thing. I want to do my own thing. I've been with this business at the time, maybe 16 years. And I'm going to be with it for the company for the rest of my life and whatever. So I ended up going to Japan saying, I met the guy who recruited me, the CEO of the company, big company. And I just said to him that, and this is what I was thinking, this is a bit of a strange thing, but I was thinking, I want to do my own thing. I don't know what it is, but I think in order for me to think about that and to get ready to do that, I felt it was right to tell the person that recruited me 18 years ago, and we bought from at Apple. So I went there. It's a bit like telling your wife, it's probably best to tell your wife you want a divorce before you go out dating again. If maybe it's that kind of thinking. But that's how I'm thinking. So I decided I want to do my thing. Didn't know what. But then I started to just think about it and talk to people. And eventually It wasn't my idea. There's a guy called Riyad Imran, who was the editor-in-chief of Britain's #1 selling computer magazine. And again, for those of you old enough to remember computer magazines, in 2003, #1 magazine was Personal Computer World. And his idea was to take the concept of a computer magazine, reviews, news, features, etc., but rather than chopping down trees and publishing on paper, to publish online. And broadband was coming. And as we talked over many late nights, it was kind of obvious that, you know, I don't think you had to be brain of the world or brain of Britain, or whatever the saying is, to recognize that the internet was very special. It was already moving at pace. We had .com.bomb, let's remember, which is if you had an idea, you became a millionaire. But we were thinking about a proper business. And so we set about, let's create a proper business. And so Trusted Reviews is tech, which is a website. It's content, reviews of consumer electronics products in today's terminology, it would be iPhones, it would be laptops, it would be, and we did all that. But there was no iPhone in 2003, but we did mobile devices, laptops, PCs. We had about 25 different, 2018 on launch and about 22 a few years later, but sections. Yeah, I mean, you've got me as so yeah, we've got content, we've got tech, sales, how are you going to make money? Because I think the founder of IBM said you can have the best product in the world, what's his name, Thomas Watson, best in the world, best systems, etc., etc., etc. But without sales, you're nothing. And I still come across companies who've got great products, but no idea how to generate revenue. And likewise, people can generate revenue, but no idea how to find the product. Anyway, so, but we had in me, sales marketeer, someone who'd run businesses, etc. And we had the editor-in-chief and his team of Britain's #1 selling computer magazine. So we kind of wanted to hit the ground running through our experience.
So we're here to talk about investment, and I'll come on to more general questions. But from your own experience, you set up your own business. So what was your experience of trying to raise investment at that time?
Yeah, look, guys, I have to be honest, I didn't raise money. I actually had my own money. And this is money I'd earned myself, by the way. So I've always worked very long hours. I think I said to you at Apple, I'm working every night, crazy hours, weekends, whatever. I never spent any money. So that's why I bought my first house when I was very young, very lucky. Over the years, because I worked lots, I never really was able to spend what I was earning. So I was a good saver. And in this case, I invested £150,000 of my own money to start Trusted Reviews in 2003. And I set aside another 100 as a kind of, you know, you will have to invest again. I can't not, but at some point, if it goes wrong, well, my wife said to me, if it goes, because I remember talking to my wife about it, I'm going to take a big risk here. I'm going to give up salary, bonus, company car, free petrol, life insurance, Bupa membership, profit share, even had a golf club membership. Can you believe? Never did, my Japanese company, so Japanese love golf. And the list goes on. So that's all gone. For the first time in my life, almost, yeah, in my working life, I think, I'm filling up the car and having to pay for the petrol. Anyway, it's a big moment. But look, raising money, I have worked with businesses that have raised money, and I've put my own money into businesses. So it's a subject which I'm happy to talk about because I have some experience from my own company. Of course, my own money. And the nice thing about doing that, and I say to you guys again, who are listening, you know, even if you've got some money, you know, and I meet people who come to me looking for money, and I think, you know, you've got a house, you could remortgage a bit, and I want to see them take risk, and I keep reminding them that the greatest asset you've got is your ownership, because come the day that if you build a very successful business, you can pay yourself market rate and more, but also you've got the value of the company.
And isn't that the most important thing in the end? And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I see some paying themselves ridiculous salaries in the first couple of years.
Yeah, don't.
And what I'm always trying to say to them, you know, reinvest, because
Correct.
in the end, it's not actually turnover. Profit, yes, right? But that's only because you want a value. But it's the overall value of the business that what determines whether you're successful or not. Would that be?
That is everything, because if you do build a successful business, it is those people that own it that will get the biggest benefit. And also look at tax. Big subject at the moment with our chancellors doing various things. But if you build a successful business and you earn a lot of money, you're going to pay large amounts of tax. Now, you can pay yourself dividends, but again, dividends are taxed at 40 or 45%.
Yes.
But you know, as an entrepreneur, there are reliefs there. You don't pay that tax. So look, the maths, anyone who understands the maths, it's basic. It tells you that, but yes, ownership is everything. And I always say to entrepreneurs, hang on to your ownership it's really important. And as you're building a business, so in my case, I put my own money in. So what's my salary? Naught. And when did I pay myself a salary? When the business was profitable. And by the way, that sharpens your mind. Now, that's not the only way to do it, because sometimes you have to build up market share, et cetera, But most of my experiences, we talk about other businesses, be it Just Park or LADbible or whatever. These are businesses that were profitable, very profitable, but started, I've been involved from the start point.
But very, very briefly, I mean, obviously, Trusted Reviews is an amazing story because not many people have heard of it. And we were talking about, now entrepreneurial stories are all over the place, but there were very few successful entrepreneurial businesses then. You went from 2003 when you set it up. 4 years later, you sold it to Time Warner, one of the biggest entertainment conglomerates in the world. That must have been an incredible experience to go through that. And was it unexpected, or did they come in from?
First of all, they
do that.
I'll give the story briefly, but Time Warner Inc., the largest media company in the world, if we go back to 2007. But we were focused on, and I'm still focused this way, if you build a successful business, which is a combination, if we look at Trust Reviews, it's audience, of course. So we were an old-fashioned website in those days, and we had things like unique visitors and page impressions. In other words, these were the main KPIs of a website. And, we built, within 4 years, we had over 2 million unique visitors, audited, by the way, of which the majority were UK, which was good. We had more content each month than probably all the magazines put together. They were just going like this, going down, we're going up. And we were also very profitable. So our revenue model is very simple. Look at any media company, it's advertising. So ours was advertising, and our advertisers were IBM, Intel, Apple, Microsoft, Dell, BT, O2, Orange, T-Mobile, Vodafone, Sony, Hewlett Packard, et cetera. But so when you build a successful business, people, in this case, one of the options will be that you will experience people will approach you. So actually, in my case, I had, within the period of literally 2 weeks, 2 American companies approached me. One of them is a household name, but I signed an NDA, so I'll stick to that. And the other one was if you're in the computer industry, you know them. Sorry, in the publishing industry, you know them. But so I had unsolicited approaches. So what did I do? I had some basic chats with them to talk about who we were, what we are. And at the end of the day, they gave an indication of what they wanted to pay for my business. And I decided then to appoint somebody to sit between me and them, some people who had in the publishing industry, and they went out and they approached more people. And one of those people that came to the table was Time Warner, who owned IPC Media in the UK. But Time Warner, who eventually they paid for my business, Time Warner in America. So that's a great story, of course. And but in the end, we were a market leader. And what they liked about it, I remember the lady from Time Warner said to me, I've got like an in-tray, out-tray of businesses we can buy. And that particular day, yours was the only one making money. I've got another tray full of ones that aren't. So I kind of looked at yours. That's what she said to me. I believe her. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, but remember, you had to, what do they say about luck? You've just got to be in the right place at the right time. And as old Gary Player said, the more you practice, the luckier you get. So, it was fortuitous, but obviously the business, it was what it was. So it was a successful business. And
it's not a one-off. Look, all the business I've worked with, and I've been incredibly lucky, so many have been successful, but again, you make your luck. the saying, the harder you work, the luckier you are. There's lots of statements around luck, but you'll get luck. You will get luck. You will, but if you create it.
So we're here to talk about you with your investor hat on. So most people around listening today have heard about the LADbible.
Yeah, great one.
Tell us about the story there. How did you meet them? What did you contribute to help them develop the business?
Yeah, this is a big part of my life in recent years. So look, LADbible, I met them in 2014. Two founders, Solly Solomou, the founder, and Ariane Kalantari, the co-founder. They were 22 years of age when I met them, and they were fresh out of university. And Solly Solomou, who went to Leeds University, he set up LADbible at university. And it's a nice story because, I work with a number of universities. I just opened the Entrepreneurship Centre at St Andrews week before last, which was very interesting. And, you look at uni and you look at people who've got, of course, you work hard at uni. My daughter's at university. But likewise, you also get quite a bit of time. I think if you check the bars at night, most nights of the week, they're pretty busy. And if you walk around in the early hours. So you have got time at uni. And I think it's not for me to preach what to do. But in this case, Solly decided to devote time to the possibility of creating a business. And with a mobile phone, which is all you need to set up a Facebook page, he set up a Facebook page and started posting viral content. And then hooked up with some other people, including Ariane, I mentioned, who's co-founder. He was at Liverpool. They were mates at school at Stockport Grammar. And suddenly they've got this Facebook page generating tremendous amount of likes, which we know is one of the tick boxes, and followers, which is the critical point of that. So you've got likes, followers, and obviously sharing of content, etc. So they actually approached me because they got to a point in 2014. There were about a dozen of them in Manchester, and they got to a point where they had millions of followers on their Facebook page. They built a website. They were sending traffic from Facebook, because Facebook was almost impossible to monetize in those days. So send it to the website. Using Google and other automated processes, they could monetize. So it was quite smart because they were already profitable. Just before I met Solly, Solly had worked with the founder of Boohoo, and Mahmood Kamani, a very successful businessman. And he provided assistance. In return, he invested. And that included people to help with, back to the accounts again, yeah? Solly Ariane focused on audience generation and revenue and building a website, but they had the good discipline. Anyway, I met them and blown away, because in front of me were two guys that were working like crazy hours, absolutely passionate about, and they knew the power of social media, and they were, millennials themselves. And we got talking, and I think you've got a combination here. One of the nice things about being older, I've got to say, experience does count. But what I love about youth, and I've always worked with young people, is this way of thinking of doing new things, not being held back by a legacy. And it's one of the great things about youth, you guys come up with so many great ideas and the passion. But the nice thing is, with experience, I've worked lots of successful business and lots of amazing people. So I've learned a lot from them. And there are some things I don't do because I know they don't work. But also I'm able to say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And things we take for granted. It's like driving a car. I was saying this yesterday to somebody, first time you get a car, oh my God, you've got to turn the key. I don't know, there's this clutch pedal, I don't know. And then the thing stalls, doesn't it? But for those of you that can drive now, think about it. You get in the car and I drove yesterday to one of my business I work with, and I'm driving for 2 hours there, another 2 back. I can't remember the journey, to be honest. I'm probably on the phone knowing me, and I'm paying attention to the road, by the way, for you health and safety people. But the thing is, I'm not really thinking about it. And it's the same in business. There are certain things when I'm interviewing people, when I'm setting up, my terms and conditions, when I'm thinking about how to pay people, performance-related pay, all of these things, there's a lot of tick boxes. So look, these guys understood social. They were tremendous, tremendous guys. Anyway, so what was my involvement? I spent from 2014 at peak. Can you believe I did 4 days a week with them? I was working weekends again. That's how I managed to do that. But I was in the cockpit with the two founders. We built the business last year. So 2014, I started. Last December, we did an IPO on the London Stock Exchange at a 360 million valuation. And now we have 500 staff. So it's a great story. For me, again, it's an honor to have been a part of that process. But working in the cockpit was really interesting and a very successful business with huge audience, profit, great customers, everything.
But this is what's fascinating. So you invested in the business, correct, as an angel?
Yeah.
So there's two sides of this, and we'll go from your side. You've mentioned to an extent what interested you. This was two amazing young people who were in a growing industry and seemed to already making a profit. From their point of view, because the fashion show, as I call it, works both ways. So were there any other angel investors interested in the business at the time, or was it just yourself?
Well, no, this is the thing we realized very quickly was that, we've got something here very special. And when I met them, there were a number of people hovering around like, we'll take over your sales. I can remember, Solly was meeting various publishers in London. Yeah, we can do your sales for you. And other people saying, we can do this. Other people will stick money in. I actually said to him, you don't need money. You actually don't need money, because if you look at where you are now, at the moment, you sell your advertising to Google, okay, or other vehicles at the time. There was, if people know Taboola or some of the other people. But what we needed to do was to create. So in media, again, it's advertising, and there's a simple process through advertising agencies, keeping it really simple. So what we needed to do was, rather than giving all our traffic audience to Google, and we know Google are a very wealthy company and great company and well done, et cetera, but we're going to set up our own sales team. Now, I have experience of selling through trusted reviews, because actually I sold every advert on trust reviews from the day we started to the day I sold it. So, built up experience of working with brands, agencies. So we set up an office in London, and we set about finding the people that we wanted. We took our profit. LADbible guys were generating good revenue, but they paid themselves absolute minimum. Again, they worked crazy hours, so they didn't really need much money. And we were taking our profit and investing it, but then changing the dials to make sure that we could, like I said, you can sell to Google and get this much, or you can do it yourself and get that much. And so we did that. And again, I'm not knocking Google, because for many people, it's fine. You can plug into their networks and you can make money. But for us, we're going to do the sales ourselves. My background is sales. And so I worked with them on setting up the office in London. And so LADbible had its content and tech and certain aspects of the business in Manchester, and then generating in London. Today, there's like a 50-50 split in terms of our UK operation between Manchester and London.
So obviously you'd start up your own business, you'd sold it, you'd worked for other businesses. What made you take this step to be an angel? I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs do it, but also a lot of entrepreneurs go back and start yet another business. What made you interested in sort of investing and bringing your own expertise?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, to be honest, I mean, and it's no big headed way. I'd earned a lot of money as an employee, and when I sold my two businesses. So in no big headed way, if I decide I don't want to work again, I could. But my hobby is working. So, this idea of you kind of sell your company. When I sold them, I sold mine for cash and I exited, which is a great way to exit. But I really miss the people I work with. I miss my customers. And so there's a kind of it's almost like you need to look at your bank statement to make you feel you've done the right thing. But, it was really, for me, it was, I need to do something. And I thought, should I start another business? I was working 7 days a week. So I did, and my daughter was one when I started Trust Review. So, I probably thought she better find out who I am. But so I wanted to I was just sort of thinking, what am I going to do? And I just I just went to one or two entrepreneurial groups and started mentoring one or two people, and just, and then I just felt, you know what, this might be another experience, because for me, it's great working for other people. That's good. It's great having your own business. I think I just came across a few individuals, like you mentioned Just Park, and again, this was a business called parkatmyhouse.com, Park at My House. And again, it's the most simple. I used it. I went to a wedding on Saturday in Highgate, and I used Just Park, as it's called now, and I parked in someone's driveway and then walked 2 minutes to the to where the wedding was, because there was no parking at this particular place in Highgate. And so yeah, to me it was like I met the founder of Park at My House, now Just Park, very successful business, Anthony Eskenazi, and we just talked about parking. And it's interesting because my father, when we were younger, we used to go to Twickenham, watch the rugby amateur game. Then in the car park, you could never get out of the car park because this is the day when you could have barbecues and all that kind of stuff. Is brilliant, but one of the problems was getting out of the car park. So there used to be people there with signs, I don't know what it was those days, 5p or something, but you could park in their drive. So all he's done is, and if you see it at Wimbledon or football grounds or whatever, all he's done is to create the marketplace. And again, I thought it was awesome. And to me, it was like, can I invest in you, please? And in the end, he allowed me.
So on that point, and I'm sure now people approach you, Hugh, about investing in businesses.
They do, yeah.
Particularly of the success you've had with the ones you've invested in. What do you look for in startup? What really, pushes your buttons about saying that's a business I want to invest in?
Yeah, look, I mean, the first one is the people. There's a saying, isn't it? When you run a business, the difference between us and success is us. It's people. People make businesses successful. So of course I have to look at those founders, and I have to look at, it's funny, when I was in employment, or anyone working for me, if there's anyone, well, those people who know me know that I'm not a 9-to-5er, yeah. So when I'm interviewing people, it's like, it's kind of two-way. It's like, do I like you? But more importantly, or just as importantly rather, do you like me? So for example, I remember my sister, and I love my sister, but she always used to say to me when I was younger, you work too hard. If you can't get your job done between 9 to 5, you're no good. And she still thinks that, she still thinks that I'm probably useless, which is fine. But the reality is, therefore, if she was interviewing me, or I'm interviewing her, particularly if I'm interviewing her, because I guess it is my decision, but I wouldn't work with her because we're different. And she may be right. I don't think she is, but she may be right. But I like to work with people who are aligned with my thinking, because it's no good that, if we're working quite long hours, we're enjoying what we're doing, we want that kind of structure, for example. So I look for, when I'm looking at people, I'm also looking for their kind of mentality and approach to work. And it's not to question it, it's to look for alignment. But it's not just that. Of course, okay, do you like the people? Very important. Are they passionate? Do you think also, have they got the ingredients? Because sometimes I meet a single entrepreneur who's got a great idea, but can't build the tech. It's like, I've got some guy in, I don't know, wherever in the world, who's built me a prototype, but they don't know how to build the tech, for example. So I'm also looking for critical ingredients for that business. I mentioned, if you take LADbible, let's go back to Lad. LADbible is content.
Yes.
And it's both user generated and original. Okay, so it's content. Now, content brings audience. It's tech. Of course, we have Facebook pages, and obviously in today's language, we have TikTok, and we have Snap and Insta and so on. But the point is that we have the technology, which is our own websites and via mobile web and apps, etc. We have tech, but that's still not enough. We need to have sales. So I'm also looking for, what are the critical legs of the business? Like a chair, isn't it? There are some chairs that one leg's enough for it to stand up. Some need 4. And I look at whether the critical parts, who is going to do those? And have they thought about that? Because again, trust reviews, content, editor-in-chief of Britain, someone selling a magazine. The rest of it was me. I'm a salesman, I'm a marketer, I've got tech experience. So we could do it. So I look for that as well. Then I look for, they've got this idea, and again, lots of different stages. I want them to take what's in their mind and put it down on paper and in numbers. Because the other important thing for me is, unfortunately, in business, people won't work for free. You've got to pay them. So what I want to see is the numbers. And we go back to those Apple days, where we had very strict discipline. And I still see businesses, like I said, that don't really know what their turnover is or profit is, and they just haven't got a grip on it. And so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for many things. And obviously I've got a number of tick boxes. Hey, look, you can't tick every box, but at the end of the day, you've got to look at those areas and judge them, and then see, a bit like LADbible, okay, sales, they're generating revenue, they're profitable, but we can make a lot more money by doing this.
I want to go on to some of the questions. We've had a few questions come in now, but
yeah, great.
Before I could do that, you talk about the positive. What are the deal breakers for you? What says, I'm not interested in that company because this or this simply doesn't make me feel comfortable?
A deal breaker can be commitment. Are they 100% committed? Because again, I've come across people, and it's like they've got another business as well. So it's like, that's or when I look at their spreadsheet, it's just like, I don't know, it's almost like, it's very easy with a spreadsheet, isn't it, to say, what if we grow this by 10, that by 15, and that by 20? And when you do it compound, suddenly 100's gone to 100 million, 100 pounds gone to 100 million. So I see the most bizarre spreadsheets, and I see things that haven't been thought through, and they just don't make sense. So, and again, I'm sure some angel investors will see these spreadsheets and put, I've known people who've invested in 10 and lost all 10. But when you go back, when you go back, I think one of my friends invested in, I don't know, it was like there's some wreck off the coast of the, I don't know, and there's some gold down there or something, and and so let's invest in that. But then you find out, oh, we can't actually, and if we do find it, we can't own it. There's things like that. So the other one is also that people have done their research carefully, because sometimes people come to you with ideas they've already been done. It's like, did you know these people are doing it? No. So often when someone comes up with an idea, I try to do a bit of research. But look, it's not trying to be clever or smart or whatever. It's just, on a personal level, and this is money that's your money that you're investing in people. It's hard-earned money. And also, I don't like to lose. I like to win. So I'm not playing for fun. I'm playing to win. It's not charity.
Let me ask the first question, and this is quite interesting because it's about early stage founders bootstrapping their startup. Yeah, they're also working a day job at the same time. So that dilemma is, how do you pay the bills? That takes time to build up traction for the investment. What happens? It's called the family and friends stage. But what happens if you don't have family and friends? What sort of advice would you have somebody in that position?
Yeah, and look, I get you've got a day job and you want to move to starting your own business. And there are so many examples of people who've done the 2-job routine. During the day, they're working, they're earning money to pay their bills, which is fine. Then the evenings and weekends, they're working on their business. And one of the nice things about tech, we can run businesses now 24/7. It's not like owning a shop where you've got a job the hours 9 to 5 and therefore your shop is shut. It's like during the critical hours. So I get that. To answer your question, I think, look, friends and family, think that one through very carefully, because, we all have lots of friends and we have friends who have friends. So again, if, people who've got business ideas, if the initial funding is small, sometimes it can be 5K, 10K, 50K, these are sums of money that are not prohibitive for people to become investors. And also remember the benefit of CDIS, for example, and EIS.
Yeah,
and I tell you this, a lot of people don't know about the CDIS investment scheme. Walk out, I know about it, I'm an angel investor, but there are people out there who could be angel investors, people who've got great jobs and lots of money. And if you said to them, how would you like to be an owner in my business? And by the way, you'll get 50% off. You put 25K in, You
exactly.
get 12 and a half back. And if it fails, it won't. But if it does,
You get 45.
You've got relief on the loss. And so actually, when we talk about friends and family or whatever, don't always think that you've got to go to these so-called angel investors, because, I'd say that. And also, I always say to people, look, I appreciate challenging times today. It's interest rates going up, oil, gas, everything is just crazy politicians, not just in, and so all of our politicians over the years, it's unbelievable what's been going on. It's challenging, I know that, but can you save? Are you able to save? And sometimes, if you prepare for, maybe there are people here watching who've got a job and want to do their own thing. Can you put money away? Can you give up things? And, can you do that? Because I think angel investors like to see there's some pain your side as well, that you've got something to lose, because, we're not, here's money, if it goes wrong, so what? But, we're grown ups and we know it can fail and we accept that as part of it. But also we want to invest and we want to see success. I certainly do.
What's the bare minimum traction that you think is needed to attract an angel investor?
Well, again, there's no one size fits all. For me, I like to see, I've got to admit, I like to look at businesses that are generating some money.
Yeah.
If and I know some businesses can't do that. I know some businesses, have to build content, build audience before you can monetize. But, my business trusted reviews, if you think about it, day one is build a website. Day one is start writing content. It took 3 months to build the website. And then once we had 3 months of content, we launched it. But can you believe I had advertisers from day one?
Yeah.
Now, the question I get, well, hang on, how can you sell advertising when you've got no audience? But in my case, I decided I'm going to create this thing called a founder rate. We were very clear what we were going to do. So we could, to potential advertisers, we could say, this is the team of people we've got. This is the content we're going to produce. This is the budget. This is where it's going to go. If you want to back us, there's going to be a founder rate for a small number of people. And can you believe that money made my business break even? So after 3 months, we were break even. So again, there are things that you can sometimes do with initial customers. And again, sales doesn't have to be, day one, you charge this maximum rate. Sometimes there are things that you can do to attract customers. And those are things that are worth looking at.
Building on that, Dave Rees has given us asked a question about the difference between the UK and the US, where he suggests that investing in the UK seems to be more revenue-based, when the US is more projection-based. So he's got to start up with the business value, only the business value available. So if that is the case, and you mentioned about making money, how do you sell that vision to potential investors?
Yeah, he's right. Look, in America, historically, Americans are much more, they're less risk averse. We're more risk averse in the UK, I think. And so there is no doubt in America and there are so many examples where people will go in quick, they'll invest, and they know that, they might invest in 100 businesses and there might be one that does something really special, and they're playing that kind of game of maths. And I get that. And for America, failure is good and so on. And these processes are sped up and whatever. This country is a bit different. And I've got to say myself, I'm probably a cautious investor. But having said that, my strike rate is pretty good. And, maybe it's luck, maybe it's not. But, I think...
What kind of sectors are you investing in now?
Well, it's funny, if you look at it, I've got a bit of a weird mixture, really, because I've got, parking, I've got social media, I've got, one's a Salesforce partner. That's actually, we had an exit on that one. But yeah, it's there. I think for me, I'm always interested in interesting entrepreneurs who are going to disrupt an industry, something new, something different. And I don't think it has to be, everything is tech these days, but my career is tech, so I like solutions that are tech. I was asked to write an article once, 1979, for a magazine called Systems International. I was asked to predict the future, 1979. So my prediction was that in the future, we're in mainframe land then, but I said in the future there'll be a computer and there'll be a dog, and it will be, was it your dog woofing earlier anyway? There was a dog barking earlier, but anyway, a computer and a dog. So the dog will keep humans away from the computer, and the computer will feed the dog. Now, what I was trying to suggest was that in the future, technology will probably be able to do everything for us. So now, it's not that I've forgotten the human race, but, if we're honest with ourselves, humans, we can't work 24/7. We have to work 7-8 hours or even less these days, but, tech can work 24/7. So that's what's nice about the internet. You can sell all around the world, you can sell 24/7, and you can expand at much rapid pace. So I like businesses that are disruptive, doing new things. They've looked at an existing thing and thought this is a way of doing it better. And that's what I like. And I'm very interested in those kind of businesses, whatever the sector.
Yeah. I'm building on that. Ollie Barrett's come in with a question.
Hello, Ollie, if you're there.
Building on that, he was just asking, if you were beginning all over again, your entrepreneurial journey, which sectors of industries would have most interested you?
Wow. So if I was starting my journey again, which sectors would interest me?
Or looked at something different? Would you have gone into the same areas, or would you have sort of taken a step back and looked, as you just mentioned?
No, it is a great question from Ollie. It's one of those things I never really thought about. So let me process that quickly. Look, I mean, the computer industry, the technology is that next industrial revolution, isn't it? It is so pivotal in how our lives have changed. Look at us all now. We're sat looking at a screen, and look at what we're able to do. We'll put this call down, we'll pick up our devices, and we'll do whatever's next. And it is just seismic. So I wouldn't want to change that, because I absolutely love technology. And when I think about what is possible in the future, it is absolutely scary when you think about what computers can do. Even at Apple, we had a voice recognition and a speech output. So I'm going to say this to you, Ollie, I wouldn't change that core part, but I just wish I could live lots of different lives. As you know, Ollie, I'd love to run the country, and we could all do a better job than this useless lot and all a lot before them. And I'd love to do different sectors. Each sector, you can develop your own passion. I think it doesn't matter what you're involved. You could be involved in transport. It could be buses or trains or planes. That is a fascinating sector as well. So I think there are just too many things. So I think for me, I just need to have 10 lives and just pick different things. But I don't want to change anything, because but there are things I want to do, but you can't do 10 things at once. So I'd love to try some other industries and other sectors. Yeah.
But also going back to your younger self, what would you focus on to improve yourself then as you come out? Were you happy with the way you were, or would you said, maybe I should have done this and to make myself better in this area?
Sometimes if I'd stayed with Apple, what if I'd asked in the UK, can I go to Cupertino? I'd love to have done that. So to have been in the mothership with Apple must have been awesome. Yeah. I think I'd like to have started my own business earlier, but I don't regret. I just didn't have the courage, if I'm honest. I was a bit of a coward. But I think if I could go back, I would like to have started earlier. I wish I could be a little bit less. I think I'm a bit cautious, actually, although, people say you're not cautious, you invest in startups. Well, yeah, of course I'm not. But, I'd like to be a bit more gung-ho at times, but I probably have been gung-ho. I don't know, joining Apple was gung-ho, wasn't it? Most people thought it was the Beatles record label or a fruit. That's it. Apple, never heard of them. It was a daft name for a computer company,
Yeah. Couple more questions, really, about how people access you. I've got Gary Piasson. No, Gary, he runs a great online travel business called Porter. He was one of our Startup Award finalists a couple of years ago. He's asking what are the best ways for founders to reach out to you, and Chris Gunn's done the same. He's saying he's got this great idea. How do these entrepreneurs reach out to you to have a chat with you?
Okay, look, for those of you who are participating, if you want to, I guess through yourself, if you want to give them my email address, they can do that. You can use LinkedIn as well.
Okay.
I get a lot of people approaching me. I have to say this to you. And if you look at my profile, I'm trying to invest in a small number of businesses, but I'm happy to have a look. I try to do that with everybody. I can't answer everyone because I can say every day people will send me messages. I just can't go through them all. And also, I'd love to invest in every entrepreneur if I have enough time and unlimited money and whatever. But now you can get to me try me through LinkedIn or through yourself if you like. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like I say, Annabelle's just put this in. Benoit's asked very similar questions about, advice on this. So please, if you have any questions directly to Hugh about business, please do so. We've got about a minute left, I think. Okay. 2 or 3 minutes left. Obviously, we've got to know you through the award programs that we've been involved with. You've helped and you've been a massive support, I know, to GBA in particular. So I'd just be interested, from your point of view, what's your view on award programs and the benefits for businesses?
Yeah, I support you, GBA, others, because when I started my business, the support structure was limited, and way back in those early days when I was young, there was nothing there, and again, I studied business studies, accounting, economics, and law. These subjects were really useful for me because when you run a business, you've got a meeting, let's say bigger businesses. Like yesterday, I think you mentioned travel. I'm with a company called Holiday Extras where I advise their CEO, and I'm talking to the CFO, and you need to be numerate and you need to understand what they do. So I've gone off piece. I don't know why, so I've lost what I was going to say to you. But anyway, remind me of the question again. Sorry.
We talk about awards and their benefit.
Yeah. Now look. So what you guys do, I think it's tremendous because you're offering a community here. You've got some highly experienced people. It's a bit like Ollie's. For those who know Ollie Barrett, he's an amazing guy, one-off. And you've got these tremendously experienced people who are incredibly connected. And it may be that sometimes I can't help, or you can't help, or Ollie or somebody else can't help, but we might know somebody who can. And that connectivity, that community. So this is part of the awards process. And look, if you've got something and you're doing something good, and through these processes, you can be part of those awards and the ceremonies, of course, it's great. It's great to win an award. It's great. It will say things as well. If you're raising money and you've been through some process and you've hit the top of it, but I think it's more than that. For me, when I go to the award ceremonies and I meet with people, it's just that community. And through that community, sometimes someone would say, "Can I have an hour of your time?" Okay, I'll do it. I'll give you an hour of my time and see what we can do to help your business. And I've done a lot of mentoring, but obviously I can't mentor everybody for free. I've got a day job and whatever. But yes, my feeling is it's these communities are fantastic and a great support for entrepreneurs. So you all do a great job, I think. GBA in particular and Startup Awards, great what you guys do, which is why I'm happy to contribute.
That's great. One final question, very briefly.
Sure.
You might just say no to this, but one thing you do differently if you could do it all over again.
One thing. I think the trouble is, as you get older, you've got this hindsight.
Absolutely.
And you just know if you can go back. It's easy, isn't it? It's a bit like politics. Yeah, we go back 2 weeks ago, we know what to do. I'm going to say this to you. I wish I could have been a little bit faster to starting my own business, because I talked about this song Inside.
Yeah.
And as much as I loved working for other people, there is something special about being part of your own business and having ownership in it. And I think if I start again, I'd want to take that risk sooner. And it doesn't matter if you fail, because the old-fashioned one is, if at first you don't succeed, try again. In American terms, today it's failure's good. So it doesn't matter, because failure, it's a horrible word, failure, isn't it? It's I don't know, maybe we'll have to redo that word, but you know, when you're younger and you go for a job interview, maybe you don't get it. I don't know, you go out one night and you ask a girl or a guy or whatever, you ask them to come out for a drink with you, and they say no. You know, so there's rejection in life. We've all been rejected, and we've all got experience of that. So in business, if we try something that doesn't work, it's okay. As long as we've given it our max. I don't mind if someone's given it the max. If I've tried my best and it hasn't worked. What I hate is when I don't, personally, if I don't succeed at something, I realise I didn't give it it's all, and that's I've got regrets historically, perhaps in my school days. Got to be honest, I probably spent too much time doing other things and I sometimes wish, but that wouldn't have made me the person I am and led me to where I am. But I still think, I wish I'd put a little bit more effort into X or Y. Perhaps my grade would have been a bit better. It would have been.
But there we are. Does it matter? Probably not. So
look, for those of you thinking about doing it, my story is do it. Mine is go for it. And I know so many people who've got wonderful stories of doing it and maybe didn't get it right first time. But you
experience.
And remember, you only fail if you give up. So never give up. Never give up.
Hugh, it's been an absolute pleasure this morning. Stroke afternoon, as you were saying. I could have spent hours just talking about Apple with you, never mind all those wonderful successes he's had with his own businesses and investing in those. So thank you very much for today, and thank you for your time. And we'll be back again next week with another wonderful entrepreneur to tell us about your experiences. So have a great day, everybody, and thank you so much.